welcome back. I am so glad that you clicked on this video or that you decided to listen to this podcast episode. So happy that you're here because we have a lot to discuss. But in case you are new here, my name is Riselle. I'm also known as the Traveling Island Girl. I'm a travel and transformation coach. Now that we've got all of those formalities out of the way, I am so glad you're here because we are about to talk about something super interesting, and that is how you can be a better tourist in the Caribbean. Now, some time ago, I did this video. That video was over 3 years ago, and it did very well. So this video is kind of similar. So I'm definitely addressing the 8 don'ts that I addressed in that particular video, but this one is for the entire Caribbean region, not only about St. Martin, and also there's a lot of other stuff that I think is very interesting and important for you to know about before you travel to the Caribbean. It doesn't matter if this is your first time to a Caribbean island or if you've been several times. So sit back and relax because school's in session. Before we dive into everything, I need to let you know first, especially if you are new to my channel or to my podcast and you may not know this, I live on the island of St. Martin and I've been calling this island home for the past 23 years. I was born and raised on the island of Curacao. So yes, I am a born and raised Caribbean girl, and I have lived pretty much here with the exception of a couple of years in Europe. I have lived all my life in the Caribbean. So yeah, you could say I'm a little bit of an expert when it comes to the Caribbean. So consider all of this to be coming from your island friend. No. When you're visiting anywhere, not only the Caribbean, but anywhere else in the world, know that you are no longer at home. So whatever is convenient and all the conveniences of being at home and all of those things, they tend to not be the case where you're traveling. You're coming to experience a different culture. So have an open mind when you travel. Not only to the Caribbean islands, but anywhere else in the world. Have an open mind. It is important to do your research, and it's also important not to come with expectations that it's going to be exactly the same as where you're from. The next thing that I see a lot of people do, and I've done an entire video and podcast episode about this in the past, that is to assume a thing or two about the destination where you're heading to. And I was taught at a very early age that to assume something is making an ass out of you and me. And really, assumptions are the devil. You need to be really careful with assumptions. I've heard everything in my line of work. When I was giving private tours, for instance, there's been an occasion or two when I was pointing out schools and people were like, oh my God, they have schools here? You have schools here, honey? They have schools. And I'm like, how could you possibly think? A lot of people also assume that because we live on an island, we live here because we don't have another choice. And also, we're not well traveled. They also assume that we don't have the knowledge or intelligence. So don't come in with those assumptions. We have been programmed from a very early age to cater to your every need when you come here. And yes, absolutely. But it is also very important to know that we are not here to be your servants. We also decided to share our island with you. So there's a mutual respect that needs to be there as well. So assumptions are the devil. Do not come with these assumptions. Just have an open mind when you're visiting the Caribbean. All right, on to the next thing here on my list is the power of hello. There is one thing that you need to know about us, and that is that we consider, and I know because I've traveled so many times to Canada and the US in particular, it is not normal to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or a simple hello when you're asking somebody a question. And I know in your life that may be normal, but to us in the Caribbean, it is considered very rude. Okay, so it's considered very rude when you do not at least acknowledge that a person exists before you ask them a question. So every time you want to ask a local a question, start with good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or at least a simple hello will do before you ask the question. Because here's the thing. If you're friendly to us, we're going to be friendly to you. It's a matter of respect. Respect is earned. If you respect us, we respect you. Right? Or do we agree with that? Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. The correct spelling and pronunciation of the island names. Oh, and this is another personal pet peeve of mine. And I think of a lot of locals in Anguilla, St. Martin, and St. Bart, because the spelling and pronunciation of the island name is so important. A lot of times, and taking St. Martin as an example, people call it Saint Martin with two E's. Oh, that is just like, ooh, if you want to drive any local crazy, call it Saint Martin with two E's. It is terrible. I don't know what fictional island that is. It does not exist. You can go and look it up. There is no such place as Saint Martin. And I don't know who came up with that name. It is not Saint Martin. It is just simply Saint Martin. And if you want to spell it the Dutch way, it is Saint Martin with double A, one E, never two E's. But it's the same with my friends in Anguilla. I hear them complain about it a lot too, because a lot of people tend to say Anguilla, and I get it. It's the way that the island name is spelled, but the locals call it Anguilla. So if the locals who live there call it Anguilla, then I think we should all call it Anguilla, right? Right? Okay. The same thing, of course, goes for Curacao, where I'm actually born and raised. Curacao, not Curacao. St. Bart, not St. Bart's. There's no S in it. There's not a plural island. There's not more islands to St. Bart. It is just Saint Bart. Okay, if you want to say it on the French way, Saint Bart. But anyway, let's keep it short, Saint Bart. In case you are heading to St. Martin and the surrounding islands, I have something really special to share with you, and that is that I have a digital guide called The Ultimate Locals Guide to St. Martin. It is over 100 pages long with everything, all of my 23 years of living on this island. I have just dumped all of that knowledge in this book, and it has everything you need to know of, including this list that we're going over right now. So if you're interested in getting your hands on this guide, all you have to do is go to the description in this YouTube video, or wait until the video is done or until this episode is done, and then head on to the description. We have talked about assumptions being the devil. We have talked about research. We have talked about the importance in knowing how to spell the island's name. We have talked about the power of hello and about how rude and offensive it can be not to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. In the Caribbean, on islands like Curacao, Aruba, Bonaire, I've seen it. I've seen it also here on St. Martin, Anguilla. I've seen it in so many other islands that tend to have their main towns in or next to the beach. You get tourists then, especially tourists that are coming off of the ships. They tend to walk around half naked or just in their swimsuits and bathing shorts. And I get that. One thing to remember is that it is a functioning society. And most of the time, even, it is where our financial institutions and our administrative offices and our government offices are located. So for you to then walk around and entering shops and stores in just your bathing suit, it is disrespectful and it is quite offensive. So cover yourself up. It's the capital of these islands, so have some respect. Cover yourself up. Ladies, put on a bottom. Nobody wants to see all of that, all of your business jiggling all over the place. And guys, if you are bare-chested, just put on a t-shirt. It's that simple. Just cover up. A lot of people just assume, this is another assumption, that every single Caribbean person is black. But you got to remember that, and that is what's so beautiful about the Caribbean islands, every single one of us is different and yet so similar. And it's a complete melting pot of different cultures that live here as well. So you're gonna have Caribbean people that are white, that are black, that are Asian, that are Indian. You're gonna get it all. Okay, so don't be alarmed when you see a white person that speaks with a Caribbean accent. It's normal. It's our normal. And while we're on the topic of being different, our accent, remember that the islands, remember when I said we're very different yet very similar? We speak different languages. When we speak English, it is with an accent. You can actually tell where a person is from by the English accent that they have or by the accent that they have. We speak different languages, we speak with different accents, and we have different music. So a lot of people tend to think Just because they know a little thing about Jamaica, that the entire Caribbean is like that. And everybody goes around saying, yeah, man. No, nothing could be further from the truth. And yeah, don't come to St. Martin or any other island going, yeah, man. No, don't make fun of our accent. Don't make fun of the way we speak. The way to remember is this: when you are here in the Caribbean, you are the one with the accent. Okay, that is something that sounds a little different than how we speak. So don't make fun of our accent. Don't make fun of the way we speak. And the way we speak does not mean that we are automatically not intelligent. All right, so just a few things to remember. Another thing also, again, with Jamaica being portrayed as the example for the rest of the Caribbean, it is simply not. We have so many different types of music. We don't go around, I don't sit in my house listening to reggae music and steel pan music all day. No, absolutely not. We have soca. We have so much music that is created here. We have so much musical and other talents here in the Caribbean. It is mind-blowing. We have zouk, tumba, tambu. If you're from the Caribbean, help me out here, because there is so many more musical genres that exist here and that are coming from the Caribbean. So that's another thing to remember. It's not just reggae and yamans everywhere. So since we were talking about this melting pot that is the Caribbean, let's talk about the food, because this is another thing that I heard in one of those negative videos. This person went all out on how the food is terrible. How dare you say something bad about our food? Hey, I am the first one to say, especially if you are from the islands of St. Martin or from Anguilla, which both of us consider ourselves to be the gourmet capitals of the Caribbean, you cannot come in here and tell us we have bad food. Oh no, siree, you did. Seriously, you want to piss off a local? Tell them we got bad food. It is inconceivable. I don't want to sound like I'm arrogant, but let's be honest. I am used to a certain level of food. And if I'm not getting it when I'm traveling, then yeah, I may consider that either I didn't go to the right restaurant or the place that I travel to does not have food to my taste. I will never say that it is bad. It's just not to my taste. And it's such a personal thing too. Some people like hot food, other people like not hot food. Some people like it spiced up, other people doesn't like it spiced. So there's different things for everybody, right? Everybody has their own taste when it comes to food. But to say that a whole country has bad food, I don't agree with that. It is simply maybe perhaps you did not go to the right place. I know those all-inclusive resorts are gonna hate my guts for saying this, but let's be honest, when you go to most of these all-inclusive resorts in the Caribbean, the money does not stay here. It just goes straight to their offshore account or to their account in the US or Canada or wherever these resorts may be from. And most of the managerial positions don't go to locals. Most things tend to keep it very cookie cutter for the type of people that they're trying to attract. That means also the food is not very, although they tend to cook a little local or locally based, it's not exactly what you can get outside of the resort. So if you are staying at an all-inclusive resort, there's no, really, I'm not going to say it's bad choice. Absolutely not. It is up to you what type of travel you want to do. And if you want to stay in an all-inclusive resort just because it's easier, know though that if you visit an all-inclusive resort does not mean that you have visited the island. Everything is so much different outside. So dare to venture outside of these all-inclusive resorts and get the experience of the island and what the island has to offer, especially when it comes to the different foods and stuff that you can eat outside of the resort. So definitely venture out of the tourist parts of the island. So now we've talked about the melting pot, we've talked about accents and music and food. Let's now talk about prices. Because that's another thing that a lot of visitors tend to say, and it depends which island you travel to, of course, but a lot of times I hear, oh my God, the Caribbean is so expensive. Most of the things that we get here in the Caribbean that you then get to buy are imported. Especially like, I've gone to Europe and stopped at a little village in Belgium and had myself a big box of fresh strawberries, and I almost fell to the floor that it was only €4 because here it's almost $10. And of course, because it's coming from those little places in Europe or in Canada or in the US or wherever else the strawberries grow, strawberries is not from here in the Caribbean. So of course, when you get those things, it is imported. And that means that it comes with all sorts of prices on top of it. So yes, it is going to be more expensive than what you are used to in the mainland. Okay, so let's talk about something else that is so very typical Caribbean. And I have, oh my God, I got a story for you on this one. It is about dogs. And what do dogs do best? They bark. I know, right? Everybody knows this. But my mother-in-law has been living in her house for pretty much as far as for the time that I've been here, which is 23 years and more. So it's been years and years that they've lived there. Somebody from a foreigner bought the villa in front of her, across the street from her. And this person had the audacity to call my mother-in-law and tell her that she needs to do something about the dogs because the dogs are barking. And this is when it comes to research that you need to know about the Caribbean. There are roaming dogs and dogs in people's yards everywhere. So this is especially for those of you who are not opting to stay in a resort, but rather in a smaller boutique hotel or in a villa or in a Airbnb. You need to know this, especially when you're in a residential area. Chances are there are going to be dogs barking well into the night. It's the same thing as me going to New York and sleeping, and I can't sleep because of the sirens. And I dare say to the people of New York that they need to shut off their sirens when, ambulances or whatever are flying by under my window. It's the same thing. You cannot come to the Caribbean and expect not to hear barking dogs. It's just part of the Caribbean. It's so normal for us. So don't come and expect or be annoyed by barking dogs. So let's now talk about the weather, which is something that a lot of you always have questions for me. Living on St. Martin, I get this question a lot, and that is, what is the weather going to be in June? What is the weather going to be in September? What is the weather going to be in December? Yes, I can tell you that we have our usual weather pattern, but let's be honest, climate change has affected us as well. So the weather that we were used to 5 years ago is definitely not the weather that we're getting today. And how else do you think we can keep this island in particular so lush and green? It is because of rain. So don't come here assuming that just because it's in the Caribbean, it's going to be sunshine every day, all day, because you will have the occasional rain. And it can be just a little bit of rain for just 5 minutes, but sometimes it can be gray for 2 or 3 days consecutively. So also, of course, it depends on the time of year. Let's be honest, it really depends on that. So since we're talking about weather, let's talk about the next frequently asked question, and that is when to visit. This is, again, something that, in my opinion, is very personal, because I can tell you when the most people travel to the Caribbean, which is of course in the winter months, because everybody's trying to escape the winter and they want to be in the Caribbean. They want to be in sunshine during the winter months. I get that. But if you are on a budget, for instance, and you don't want the expensiveness of the Caribbean, because I'll give you that, it can be quite high up in the prices, right? You can then best visit in the summer months. It is also the hurricane season in some parts of the Caribbean, so you might have to keep that keep that in mind when you're coming down in those months. So make sure, again, do your research. The islands that you're visiting, is it in the hurricane belt or not? Are they used to getting storms or not? So if you are traveling in the hurricane season, take out some kind of travel insurance so that you don't lose anything when you have to cancel at the last minute or have to leave before your vacation days are done. So again, it is very I think personal, because it depends on whether you're a budget traveler or not. It depends for what kind of reason you want to travel to. If you want to travel for carnival, make sure that the carnival is in the month that you're going, because, or you're going in the time that it is carnival rather. Because for instance, in here on St. Martin, the French side celebrates it in February, the Dutch side celebrates it in April, Curacao does it in February, Trinidad does it in February, but Statia, Saba, and other islands may do it in June or July. Some people do it in August. Some people's carnival is in August. So Anguilla, for instance, is in August. So keep that in mind. If you're traveling for carnival, don't think that every day is carnival here. Do your research and make sure that you're going at a time when it's carnival, or for whatever occasion it is that you're traveling for. All right, so we're almost done here. Since we are still on the topic of weather here, by the way, sargassum. And sargassum, a lot of you might call it seaweed. It's actually an algae, and you will get most of it in the summer months. When it starts getting hot, the algae comes from the floor bed of the seabed. It comes up, and then the wind moves it in whatever direction, which then ends up on our shores. Now, that does not mean that every beach on the island is going to have sargassum, and it doesn't mean that sargassum is going to come in every day on the same beach. It is so dependent on the direction of the wind and how much wind there is. So there are, of course, certain beaches that might get a lot of it, and then when you go to the opposite side of the island, you may get none. So it doesn't mean that just because it's the summer, you're going to be inundated by sargassum everywhere and it's going to ruin your vacation. Absolutely not. Do some research again. Find out from the locals, if you can, if or where the sargassum is, if there is any, and if there's a beach that doesn't have any on that particular day. That changes day to day during the summer months. Okay, so I just want to stress to you again that, the Caribbean is so diverse. Every single island is different. We have a lot of similarities, but we're a melting pot of origins and of people and of different shapes and sizes and shades. We are different yet so the same. So just do some research. Remember that if you're going to the Caribbean and you need an island friend to help guide you to plan a Caribbean vacation that is best suited for you, and all you have to do is go to the description and click on the link to my services. I am more than happy to help guide you through all of that and help you plan the best Caribbean vacation for you, or the best Caribbean trip, whatever your reason for coming to the Caribbean. I'm happy to help you with that. All right, so we have come to the end of this video, the end of this episode. I am so grateful for you lending me an ear, for you watching this video. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. My name is Riselle, the Traveling Island Girl. Until the next time, bye.